Have you ever noticed that every time you go through a big life transition, you don't feel like yourself anymore? It's like you become a completely different version of yourself. Sometimes more anxious, sometimes more numb, sometimes more attuned to your environment. And the thing is, most women think there's something wrong with them, when in reality, you just entered a very specific psychological space. And that space I call the sacred in between. And if you understand this space, you'll never invalidate yourself during a big life change. So today I'm going to show you what exactly that means and how to move through it without losing yourself. If you're going through a breakup, a relocation, a career change, or any kind of internal shift where everything around you seems so unfamiliar, this is the sacred in between. And I want to explain this in a way that changes how you see this big life change forever. Because most women, most people in general, they are trying to rush this phase. They are trying to push through this phase. And this is like swimming against the current. Nothing is gonna happen if you're swimming against the current. Or actually, it might backfire on you. So, this is not to scare you. With that being said, the sacred in between is not a space to fix. And yourself too. That's why today we're going to speak about what that means, so you can understand exactly how to move through it. If you're new here, hi, my name is Chrisana, I'm a psychological life coach. Here we speak all about inner healing, inner work, and inner development. And if you've been here before, hi, welcome back. And yeah, let's get into the video. So what is exactly the sacred in between? So the sacred in between is the space, the emotional and psychological space between who you were and who you're becoming. So that's why it feels like you used to know yourself, but you don't know who you are quite yet. It happens during life transitions like a breakup, a divorce, even entering marriage, career change, relocation, endings you didn't fully choose, and beginnings you don't feel ready for. So this is the phase where the old version of yourself started dissolving abruptly or slowly. And again, the new version of yourself hasn't fully formed yet. And this is exactly where most women get confused. Because externally nothing seems wrong, but internally everything seems new. Everything seems so unfamiliar. Maybe you don't know how to orient, maybe you don't know who you are anymore, how to go about your day, what are your habits, but you're not yet who you are becoming, or rather re-becoming, because I firmly believe we are all coming back home to ourselves, to our true selves, slowly, steadily, or abruptly, in our own unique ways. And so that sacred in between space can feel like emptiness, like a black hole. And I want to invite you to think of this sacred in between like you are right now in winter season. So winter is a time where nature looks still. Nothing is blooming and everything seems dead. But beneath the surface, the roots, all of those systems, they are still working and they are much alive. They are alive. It's just that reorganization is taking place right now. Even though nothing is visible yet, everything is still in motion. The leaves fell because the trees didn't need them anymore. This is exactly the sacred in between. Motion is happening beneath the surface. Everything is moving beneath the surface in the darkness of the winter. I'm sorry if you can hear those dogs. They are quite in a mood today. But yeah, I want you to think of the sacred in between as winter. It doesn't mean something is going wrong, but rather there is a hidden rebecoming. There is something hidden underneath that is taking place and it's reorganizing itself. I experienced this very clearly a few years ago when I moved to London for my master's. On the outside, everything looked like progress. Everything looked like summer or spring. Everything looks like, it was going well. But deep inside myself, even though I achieved something I wanted since I was a teenager, I felt numb. Yes, I felt a bit excited the first 3 months, actually, and then I felt numb. And so that was the winter taking place, because I wasn't my past self, the Krisanna that lived in her home country and the one that just finished her undergrads. No. And at the same time, I wasn't quite the new Krisanna, the one that, ooh, she lives in London. Yeah, no, I wasn't quite there yet, even though physically I was there. There was a gap between those two identities. And because I was in this over-functioning mode, I was getting extremely anxious before I moved to London. I was trying to organize everything, plan everything, and control even situations. I wasn't emotionally processing this move, this sacred in between. I couldn't process that, and that's why I was over functioning. That was my survival strategy, being activated. I was in my warrior woman. And if you want to know more about the activated self archetype that gets activated during a big life change, I'm gonna leave the free quiz down below, and come back and let me know in the comments which one you are and what is the sacred in between you're going through right now. I would love to know. So yeah, I was in this over-functioning mode. I wasn't saying goodbye properly to my old apartment, to my cat, to my friends, to the city, to all the situations, the old habits. No, I couldn't process that. I didn't have the capacity at that time in my life. I was just focused on the next step. That kept me locked and stuck in a situation where if I could process my emotions, if I could sit with them, process the situation, be in this really uncomfortable sacred in between where nothing seems to be moving when I moved to London, I wouldn't feel numb when I went there. I would feel like my new identity, like my new self, the Krisanna who lives in London, who is a student of her master's degree, who she just now relocated. Yeah, I wouldn't self-sabotage in this way. And this is the most, to my opinion, sad thing when we go through the sacred in between and we are up leveling in life. We are about to meet the next version of ourselves, so things are shifted. And we think that thing, the external, the career, the relocation, the new marriage, they're gonna bring happiness into our lives, even the breakup, when in reality, they don't bring happiness. The only thing that's gonna bring happiness into our lives is the internal. Is processing the internal and not constantly chasing the next big thing. There is no amount of happiness that can fulfill the need to be with yourself, to be with your loved ones, to actually be there and fully receive that. That's my point. I wasn't happy. I thought moving to London would bring me happiness. But it didn't. And then this is how my deep inner work started. But that's a whole another conversation. And this is exactly why most people misinterpret this phase. They think they are anxious. They think they are burnt out. They think they are self-sabotaging. They think they are emotionally unstable. But often, even though that might be true, even though those things might resurface from underneath. Yes, just as like I was self-sabotaging, you might be also self-sabotaging your new chapter, your new career, your new home, anything. What is happening, it's much simpler and much deeper. Your nervous system is recalibrating. Your system is trying to orient itself in a reality where the old self has dissolved. Not only dissolve, but it no longer fits in the new reality, in the new external reality, but also in the new internal reality. And because nobody really teaches us this phase of life, nobody really speaks about this phase, we think that there is something wrong with us when that happens. Especially women think they are doing something wrong, they've done a mistake, they are failing even in life. They are failing. This is a sign of failure. When in reality, this is a sign you are progressing in life and you are maturing and evolving into the next version of yourself, into your new identity. And in this way, you are re-becoming your true self, That's why this phase is not about fixing, pushing, or forcing. It's about staying present with it, which most people cannot do because we are so used to those quick rhythms and we want to see results immediately with everything. We're so used to getting instant gratification from things. And that phase, the sacred in between, has its own timeline. And the truth is, the more we push, fix, or go against it, the more time it's gonna take. This is the irony, actually. And I know because I've done that. I know because this happened not only when I was in London, but in a few other occasions where I was in the sacred in between. It's a part of transformation where the old identity dissolves and the new life is being resurfaced. And the new start, the new level of your life, the new self, your new career, your new home, your new even partner, anything is coming forth, starts slowly forming underneath, sometimes even quite rapidly, but that depends. So the more we allow it to be, and that doesn't mean don't have goals, don't go about your life, be passive. I'm not saying that. We are all about fulfilling your potential here. So that doesn't mean being passive. That means giving it space, allowing it to be witnessed. Let's say, for example, last year I relocated again and I was having some kind of extreme nightmares, like I was seeing myself killing people or death in a lot of different versions. And because I was giving space to the dreams, because when I was waking up, I was writing down my dreams and then I was analyzing them, I was giving space for this sacred in between to form underneath. I was not pushing it or invalidating it. I was being with it. I was being with those nightmares. Like, even though it was uncomfortable, I was there witnessing them instead of being caught in them. So instead of trying to fix yourself, because there is nothing wrong with you, soon enough you're gonna re-emerge into the spring, you're gonna bloom again, you're gonna have flowers, and everything is gonna feel alive. But that doesn't mean we don't feel alive in winter, right? You can feel alive in winter too, but in different ways. So it's not about becoming more productive. It's not about figuring everything out right now. And it's certainly not about rushing into clarity yet. It's about allowing this transition, this sacred in between, this darkness of the winter to be. It's that simple. You allow yourself to be in it. You give yourself permission to be and surrender into this phase of your life. After all, it's not gonna last forever. If there's one constant in life, is that nothing is permanent. So allow yourself to be in it. You are just a human being going through the sacred in between. And because I know some of you are high achieving women and they always wanna evolve to the next version of yourselves, and it might be a bit hard to just be, stay with me, I'm gonna give you homework. I want you to ask yourself at least once a day for a week, what am I feeling underneath my need to fix, push, control, or even escape right now? And instead of changing it, you get to change that if it's something dysfunctional for you, if it's something that it's an old habit you don't want to see yourself in anymore. Yeah, of course. Just stay with it for a few seconds. Maybe put one hand to your heart and breathe into it. Breathe into the answer of it or into the question of it and see what emerges. And just stay with it just for a few seconds. And then come back and let me know in the comments what is the shift you experienced after this practice. Remember, the sacred in between is teaching us how to stay present with ourselves in the uncomfortable space. And that changes everything in terms of how you move through big life transitions. That is all. I hope you enjoyed. Thank you so much for watching this, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.